Welcome back to or do you want to give it a shot?
And
Nickon?
we are a go.
Hello, welcome. What do I say next?
Welcome to another edition of Splitting Hairs with Max, Nicky, and Nickon.
As usual, I'm Max.
I'm Nicky.
And I'm Nickon. And
together we're
Max, Nicky, and Nickon.
Shit, messed it up.
We have got a great show in store for you tonight.
A show.
Or today, whenever you're listening to this. Our topic for today is selling out.
That's right.
And we'll discuss all the details of what that means in just a moment. But before
If
we
it
get
means
into
anything at all anymore.
But before we get into
Sounds
it,
like someone has a stance.
Well, I actually...
Yes,
I do have a stance.
I have a stance too.
I have a stance, and I also...
We'll get into it in a second.
I recently read an article about the rise and... Well, it's called The Rise and Decline of the Sellout, actually, is what it's called.
All right, well, yeah, keep it for later. Keep it for the
But
meat
before
part.
we get into it, just wanted to mention some news. We got some podcast news, I think. Do we? We have a Vintage Basement show coming back into the new year. Our first one of the new year is on February 2nd. That's a Thursday night at the Brooklyn Comedy Collective at 8:30 p.m. Tickets will be going on sale. Hopefully, by the time we release this episode, they'll be on sale. So you can find it all at Brooklyn Comedy Collective's website. I think it's brooklyncc.com, but don't quote me on that. If you have trouble finding that, go look up maxnicky.com, and that'll direct you to the appropriate links. Be a fun show.
Yes.
I have decided I think I want to get back into stand-up, so stay tuned for that. Watch out, world. But yeah, it's been over a year since I've been on my little hiatus, and I'm sick of it.
And back with an all-new mustachioed Nickon.
That's right. I was inspired by the what do you call it? Album? It's not album art, but whatever.
Podcast album art. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
If you guys are just listening to the audio and not watching the video, Nickon has a full-on new mustache growing out here.
Or at least it's new to us since the last time we
that's right.
saw him. And I'm sure if you're listening or watching, you have seen the album art, as it were, and depicting Nickon with a mustache. Well, this is it in real life.
This is the mustache. So this is still it's in its infancy. Just wait till you see it full blown.
Infancy, okay.
Yeah, this is just a month of growth. So yeah.
Well, all right, guys. I think we got the news out of the way. You guys ready to get into it? So, what do we get?
Let's just say, we mentioned this before, but Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year. Sorry.
This is our
Happy
first
New
podcast
Year, guys.
back into the new year of 2023.
Well, the first podcast we're recording in 2023.
Yeah.
This is the year we turn it all around. Is that a reference to something?
I was just thinking sort of like the future, or sort of like Buck Rogers, or Buck Rogers in the 24th. Well, I think of the Daffy Duck parody
Duck
of it.
Dodgers.
Duck Dodgers in the 21st and a half, or what is it? The
24th
and a half century or something like that. Anyway,
2023.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do we have any?
This is the year.
Resolutions?
This is the year we turn it all around, guys. Just
I hope this is the year we. I wanted to just vent out a little bit about one thing before we get into it. Maybe we can make it a running segment, Nicky's Corner.
Oh,
but
okay.
I better get my own corner too then.
I just want to say
who occupies the other. I guess it's a corner and a triangle structure.
We can all have our corner. Yeah,
There's been a pet peeve of mine. It's really been bothering me a lot in the past half year or so. I've been noticing people saying they'll go as far as blank, but they won't say the end of that express. They won't say goes or is concerned. So they'll say as far as the Warriors, I think that this, but they won't say as far as the Warriors go or as far as the Warriors are concerned. They won't say that second half of what that expression is. They'll just go, as far as the Warriors, I think that, they're going to be really good this year,
And the reason Nicky is saying Warriors is because he predominantly hears this coming from commentators of basketball.
I was going to say,
NBA
I think there might be a
No,
correlation between...
It's not just that, Max. I hear it a lot, just in general these days. I've been hearing it a lot on like ESPN because I just hear them talk about it a lot, but I hear it all over the place, and it really bothers me. I always want to say goes or is concerned, I want to finish it for them, and it's really...
I guess, to me, I'm not really bothered by it. It's just a shorthand. I don't know. I don't.
It bothers me. It's improper English. It's an improper use of an idiom, and it should bother you because it's like
it should bother me.
It should. I'm bothered by your lack of being bothered. No, it's like there are reasons that we have languages in common. It's like a way for, I don't know. It's one example of many cases of just, I don't know, laziness or like a lack of interest in.
And I would argue. So when I was thinking about it last night, and I was thinking,
perfect myself, but like I try to, get things right so I can communicating.
Sure.
Right.
Okay. Look, I guess what I'm saying is, let me just split hairs. Let me just split hairs.
No, can I
splitting hairs part of it? I just want to say
this is my favorite part.
I just want to say.
So the Max. No, let me just outlet.
Let me just say I don't do that. I try to say correctly, but as far as grammatical things go.
Nice.
Are concerned.
This is the least. Ranks on the ladder of it all. Ranks low on my concern for me. I don't care that much about it.
It's part of a greater pattern of I don't know, nihilism towards
toward the English
properly
language.
Communicating.
Well, I don't know. Well, so I was thinking about it, and if you were to talk about yourself. As far as you would not say, as far as I, because that's what they would say. That's what they would be doing. They'd be saying, as far as I, this should be like this.
They'd probably say, their workaround is probably they would say, as far as me,
right?
And it wouldn't sound wrong, even though that is wrong too. But it's like that's how they would make it make sense in their brain.
What bothers me more is kind of
increasingly shrinking brain.
What bothers me more in syntax is when somebody does like hypercorrection or overcorrection, or sometimes it's called hyperurbanism, which is it's when they
sounds racist.
No. It's when somebody tries to they do something that is incorrect grammatically, but in an effort to try to sound smarter or try to be correct, they actually end up being incorrect. So a prime example of this is saying, he gave the ball to him and I, or something like that. Trying to, like, by using, or he gave the ball to he and I, like saying he and I, there's something that maybe there's an error of it that sounds a little bit like you're trying to sound a little smarter by saying he and I, but you would never. That's incorrect.
In that situation,
you would say him and me.
You would say him and me.
You would never say he gave the ball to I. You would say he gave the ball to me. Anyway, that's an example of something that bothers me more.
All right. Anyway, I just
overcorrection.
Nicky's corner is basically our 5 minutes of grammar lessons.
Yeah. Look, I just wanted to vent about that one particular thing. I don't even what it is now.
Yeah,
as far as blank goes or is concerned. Anyway,
so that's our critique to you, society. Pick up your part.
And this has been another edition of Nicky's Corner on the Splitting Hairs podcast.
The Splitting Hairs comedy network. No, I just a little tidbit just to add on at the very end there of this grammar thing is that something that is correct though. That sounds like maybe you think it's not correct, but you do say this is this is he and I, or something like that. Because you on when you pick up a phone, you say, this is he.
This is he. Is that correct?
It is correct. You can say this
Well,
is.
you can. I've heard people say, but is that correct?
It is. It's kind of an older way of saying something, like it is I. It is I, or it is. It is we, or something like that.
It's I. This is he.
It's kind of comes from an older way of speaking English, and I looked it up, and it is correct because it is not. I forgot the.
What do they say in the Big Lebowski? The blank we, the royal we.
The royal we. Yeah.
Well, no, but it has to do with
the bagman, man.
All right.
It's the bagman.
It's receive. It's the action is being. How does it work?
Well, Max,
it is, or this is. Well, anyway, it's just
Max. Let's not get too far in it.
Okay, well,
let's not split hairs here, right?
Right.
I didn't intend this to be some kind of grammar lesson. I just wanted to vent that one thing.
Well, but since we are on the topic, and maybe we do want to make it a segment, just something about grammar every week.
The grammar corner.
Send in your votes, audience. If you want us to keep doing grammar lessons, please let us know. But my question, I honestly don't know the answer to this. Is it incorrect? Like, is there ever a correct use of? I hear people say, "She and myself went to the
No,
is that the right?
No,
you know what I'm talking about when people say
do. I know what you're talking about, and that's another pet peeve of mine when people say myself.
They're trying to sound like more sophisticated,
right?
Saying,
but it's wrong.
But it's incorrect, right? Yeah,
it's incorrect. I hate when people do that. That is
okay. That brings the question. Okay, myself. I'm just trying to think. Okay, the only proper usages, I guess, would be. Oh, so in other words, if you're saying,
unless myself is
it's only referring to
myself,
right?
Myself.
Unless you're just saying I was speaking to myself.
No. I'm saying like the two of us went grocery shopping.
No. I understand what you're saying.
Debbie and myself went grocery shopping.
No, I know. I understand what your example is. I'm saying the only correct way, I think, would be saying something like I was speaking to myself.
Right.
Right.
Or you know what? I feel that way myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Myself is generally, if I'm correct, used as a sort of emphasizer.
Guys, can we just reflect on how that seemed like it was rehearsed? You guys both saying emphasizer on top of each other.
Well, I just not rehearsed.
I just wanted to say
it was rehearsed for almost 35 years rehearsal.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. We all have birthdays coming.
We all have birthdays coming.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the time we release this episode, I think that
we will have all. Yeah.
It will have our birthdays might have just passed. Nikon's is on the 12th, right? If I believe
the 10th. The 10th.
Gosh, I knew it was the 10th.
It's okay.
And ours is the 15th.
That's
Sorry,
right.
our friend Kevin is the 12th.
No, he's the 14th, I believe.
No,
way to name drop. Way to name drop, guys.
But yeah, myself. This sounds really pretentious, but if you're thinking about it, like in terms of the French language, you would say,
"Oh, this will be pretentious." All right,
something
I can't
just
wait.
really quickly, like
this is very.
J'ai fait ça, moi. You know, the moi at the end of the sentence is emphasizing that you were the one who did this.
Right, but that's not the equivalent because you do say.
This is
really getting into
because it wasn't
territory.
Pretentious enough.
We're really
this is like Dr. Fraser Crane
at this
right,
point.
Fraser and Niles arguing over the proper French.
Well, because you can say moi-même. That would be myself.
No, but you wouldn't. But you wouldn't say. But in, it's not a direct translation, Max.
No, I'm just saying though.
This is literally a Frasier, like a.
You brought this up, Nickon.
I'm sorry. All right. Should we get into the topic?
Actually, Nicky,
let's get into the topic.
Wait, I just did one real quick last thing.
Oh no! Come on, we gotta get to the episode.
But I just gotta
this
say,
could just be the grammar episode if we want to do that.
I just have to say real quick because you said you also can begin a sentence by saying I myself agree. Anyway, that's all.
Sure. Yeah. No, yeah, that's true.
Yes, you can. Yeah,
I like that use of it. To be clear, I have nothing against the use of the word myself. It's just
no, I sure
context. Yes.
Just as another example, I was just trying to.
Although the self apparently is an illusion, so that's a whole different topic.
Oh boy! Now
I
let's
don't-
get
I'm
real
not equipped-
pretentious here.
I'm not
Really get
equipped to talk about it anyway, but look it up, people. Look it up.
All right, let's get to the
Let's
real
get to
topic
it.
at hand.
Selling out.
Selling out.
Selling out. Who wants to take what position? I think I moderate the last one?
Well, yeah,
No.
you suggested
Oh,
the
you
topic.
did.
You
You did.
suggested the topic too, so maybe you should get a choice in the matter.
Okay.
You did mediate last time, which was our toilet paper episode.
Right. Which, okay. So, so I'll take a position. I could take either one. Does anybody want to take
well, then
one or
Max,
the
why don't you
other?
take the opposing position?
What
position did you want to take?
Oh, do you?
I have a position that I would like to take.
Well, actually, why don't
You take it.
why don't you both take positions and I'll be the
Okay.
moderator, mediator,
Okay.
because I do have a little bit of history as well to give. Based
Oh,
on
as a
this article.
sellout yourself?
No, just based on this article I was
Oh,
reading
right.
actually from
Right,
about
yeah.
the history of the usage of the word sellout.
Okay.
And the word sell actually, which is interesting.
Interesting. Okay.
Well,
so
I'd
sounds
like to take the position of I'm okay with quote unquote selling out. I don't even consider it that anymore. You know.
Okay. Well, also I will
okay.
say that I'm pro or anti selling out.
Okay.
Let's just say the word sellout has a long history.
Well, Max, hold on. Before you get into it, okay, so these are the roles that we're playing.
Yes.
Nickon is anti-selling out. Nicky is pro-selling out. Max is the moderator, mediator role.
And I'll play sort of
Who
devil's
will
advocate
surely
along the way.
break character.
Who will surely break character.
Of course, we got to define terms before we get into it.
Yes.
Right.
So,
Well,
Max,
okay. Well, this is now sellout. Historically, at least in its modern usage, kind of started around the 50s and 60s with regard to music, actually.
Okay.
Interesting.
It became, it was in reference to certain jazz artists at first.
Really?
This is, I'm talking about in our modern understanding of the word sellout, the way we use it as a sort of
pejorative
a noun, as pejorative, as a sort of derogatory noun. But it also, before that, it had been used in the political sphere as well.
Before the 1950s.
Yeah, still in a derogatory way.
Okay.
For it with regards to, I mean, it certainly kind of came from a leftist point of view, directed towards people that it came from kind of unions and people like that, and it started, I guess, in the Gilded Age. I guess when economic growth started changing in the United States. This is when America started seeing a lot of economic growth.
So it's an American term. It's an American expression.
I believe so, and I can confirm that in this, or at least according to this article I read by Franz Nicolay.
A non-American name.
Well, I don't know if what he is actually. But
Well, America's a melting pot.
Yeah,
No, I know, but it
melting
just
pot.
sounds like Franz Nicolay. What is it? That sounds
right. Yeah, right. Well, I know it sounds maybe. Well, I don't know. I would
Sounds
venture to
French.
say. Greek,
maybe?
It's spelled A-Y at the end. Maybe it could be.
Oh, Nikolai, Russian.
Well, A-Y?
Nikolai? I don't know.
Well, no, I would think.
I read that as
it's-
Nikolai.
I read it
I'm gonna
as
look up Franz.
A-I as Nikolai. But
Well,
maybe-
sure, yes. Well,
But
that's
maybe
actually. I
AY
would
is-
love to talk about that sometime.
Yeah, maybe you're right though. Maybe it is pronounced like
Wait,
the
what
Y
did-
is taking the form of an I.
Wait,
sound,
what did you want to
actually.
talk
Right.
about sometime?
I want to. Well, so when a name from a different culture is translated to English,
Mhm.
and they use like my friend David, his like American name is David. His Vietnamese name is Dat. It's Dak. It's either Dak or Dat. I always mix it up, but it's
Dat Fan.
it's spelled DAT, but it's pronounced DAK. And
Interesting.
and they're like, well, yeah, and in Vietnamese, or I don't know what is the name of the language is Vietnamese, but in our language,
It is.
T is K. It's like, then you're just using the wrong. You just used the wrong letters importing it over to the new to English. You know what I'm saying? Like if T is K, then your idea of T is actually K. It's not T.
So you're saying that he should spell his name with a K in America?
Yeah. Because it's a new alphabet, right? You're going from one alphabet to the English alphabet.
Right.
If the sound is a K sound, then the letter that goes with that is the letter K.
Well, I'm going to argue that
I would argue that there's a lot of
America is a melting pot, as you say.
Sure.
Are you talking?
Talking about alphabets here. I'm just saying. Okay, the letter N sounds like N. So whatever the letter in
but what about
N is
with the word no?
Okay, cool. N to N.
With the word no, for example, KNOW, the K is silent, and there's these exceptions, with
sure.
Well, no, but also,
I'm saying you get to start from scratch. You're going from Vietnamese to English. Clean slate. Hey, do you guys have a letter for K? Yeah, it's K. Okay, cool. So we're going to use that to spell our name Dak.
I suppose.
I guess, but to me, the spelling of your name kind of has an identity, is a part of your identity as well, I feel.
Well, then why not just pronounce it as Dat instead of Dak? Like,
that's what I would do if I saw that name written out. I would say, "Oh, that's Dat."
Well, it's interesting you say
that. Well, no, I'm sorry.
The comedian
it's
Dat Fan,
Dak. Yeah,
the comedian Dat Fan, he's of Vietnamese descent. He's American, but his name is spelled D-A-T.
And he goes by Dat.
He goes by Dat.
But maybe it was Dak at one point,
and he just decided.
Let me also explain.
Was easier.
Also in Vietnamese,
or maybe it's vice versa.
Oftentimes, the last name Nguyen or Nguyen.
Nguyen, yeah.
It's pronounced Win. A lot of, or sometimes they say Nguyen, or just Win actually.
Right.
But they're all spelled.
That's a little more of a gray area because I'm sure there's like some nuances.
I'm still not spelling it correctly, but
I'm sure there's like some kind of nuance. Anyway, well, we're splitting hairs on.
We're really getting off on a tangent here, guys.
Yeah, okay.
Splitting hairs where tangents are made.
It's funny because we've talked a lot more about grammar and spelling in this episode than we have about selling out.
This will make it onto one of our best ofs for sure.
Right. Anyway, I just do want to say, just a little back history about this, I guess I want to say is, sellout as applied, it's generally, when I think of sellout in modern terms, I generally hear it belonging to the music sphere. No? Can we agree on that? I generally think
no,
well,
actors, entertainment in general.
Entertainment
in
actors
general.
doing commercials, for example, like famous.
Well, apparently, this is according to this article. Sellout, as applied to musicians, was a slur that had a birth. It rose to prominence in the late 1950s and early 60s.
Which jazz musicians were accused of selling out.
But it was also a time when kind of music and politics started to, intertwine a bit, especially in the late 60s. That became a really big thing.
Well, which musicians were the ones accused of selling out?
Well, here's a well-known musician was sorry, I'm forgetting
Elvis Presley.
No,
is this a bit?
No, it's not. I just totally blanked. Is Bob Dylan when Bob Dylan turned electric?
Sure, they said that was selling out. Yeah,
they thought, he's becoming commercial all of a sudden. A lot of the folk revivalists were like, he's not pure folk anymore. How dare he? He's becoming a sellout.
This actually, this relates to how I like to define selling out on my free time.
Go ahead.
So I have nothing wrong. I have nothing against an artist being successful, right? I think the trade-off of your artistic, voice, let's say, in the interest of making more money. And in Bob Dylan's case, when he went electric, I think he was doing that because he wanted to explore that area of creativity. He was already at the top of his game. He was already incredibly successful. So what is there to sell out if you're already the most famous folk musician of all time ever, period, right?
Like, yeah, no, I don't agree with those people's criticism of him using that word. Because, of course, you need to explore other outlets.
Especially in the 60s when there was so much exploration in the music sphere going on. I mean, one might argue, the Beatles kept selling out over and over again because they kept changing their sound.
Which is why, it's
different with the Beatles, though, because they were always hugely commercial. And while Bob Dylan was very successful being a pure folk musician, his commercial appeal was definitely not as big as the Beatles.
Whereas the Beatles, actually, they were commercial already, and them pushing the boundaries was almost like, hey, what can we get away with in the commercial
being this successful
appeal without losing our what can we get away with without losing commercial appeal?
And we're back from our forced break because we don't pay for Zoom. That's an advertisement to pay for Zoom, guys. Your life will be a lot more convenient.
Well, when we start promoting a Patreon eventually for this, people can be like, hey, how can you help us pay for Zoom? You can become a Patreon subscriber.
Well, can we just start doing it now? You just suggested a promotion of our Patreon just now.
Well,
do we have a Patreon?
I actually created a page.
Well, okay, this will segue right into our talk about sellout. Actually, selling out.
That's true.
Continue into it.
Well,
sure.
I don't know if you wanted that little snippet, but we just talked about it.
No, I think we want it. I think we keep everything. Everything.
Okay. Anyway,
but Nicky was talking about the Beatles.
Nickon, we were actually on you talking about what your definition of a sellout is.
Yeah, I just like I said, I got no problem with an artist being successful. Like that's the whole idea, But I think it's when you compromise your artistic sensibilities. Mm-hmm. And this is where it gets a little murky because some people they either stop being that interesting creatively and that's okay. Like, I'm not going to hold it against you. Like, maybe you did some really cool stuff in the 60s and 70s Rolling Stones. No, I don't want to go back to that.
This is like the Rolling Stones bashing podcast.
And you're still being creative. You're still putting stuff out there. And who am I to say that it's not good or anything like that, but it just doesn't resonate. And so that's fine, whatever. It's doing it with the express intention of selling more records. It's the selling part of selling out, right? So the Black Eyed Peas are the perfect example of this in my mind because of how successful they are and how terrible I think that their music has been since they sold out. And this might be my middle school brain, but when I was in middle school, they had this one album called Behind the Front. Check it out, audience. That's like a really solid hip hop album, I think. It's got, interesting beats. Like they're doing some cool stuff with their flows and all that kind of stuff. I sound like an old man saying this. Their flows sound tight. But
I know what you mean, actually.
As they're smoking that grass.
I mean, don't even get me started on the current flow or the current batch of popular hip hop artists. It's just not anywhere compared to how skilled somebody like Snoop Dogg was. But anyway, go on.
Totally. And even Snoop Dogg himself, like, I don't know, like that's an interesting area. Cause like, did he sell out or is he just like, all right, this is easy. Like, I'm just going to keep doing this like in a very, I don't know. It's hard to, Snoop Dogg's a great
his hand in a lot of different things in entertainment in general. And
sure.
There's an interview
selling out. I mean,
but I will say there's an interview where he does knock the current batch of popular hip hop artists. He says something to the degree of, there's nothing to, he's like, I don't understand these rappers that just go, it's, it's just these triplets and they're not, he said there's not doing anything creative with it. He's like, there's not a good flow to it,
That's true. Cause even if he, you put him on a track with like, I don't know. Did he do something with Justin Bieber in the early Bieber days?
Is that true?
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of Ludacris. But anyway, like even if he is doing a sellout type situation, like he is bringing his unique approach to rhythm and verse and all that kind of stuff, which
No, what he did,
you just can't take that away from him.
he did do. He was in a Katy Perry song actually featured in that, and he actually questioned. I saw him on. He was an interview on Howard Stern. He was talking about his apprehension to do such a thing because he just thought, "Whoa, now really, am I doing something here that's even this is a little much for me?" But
they were like, "Here's a bag of money."
Right.
Here, so
I forgot
guys,
the reason that he said that he did it, but he ultimately just came. He's like, "All right, I guess
So
he's fine with it." Yes.
With all that in mind, I want to take, as I said before, I'm taking the position of being pro selling out. I think whatever you can do to make your money, that's fine. As long as you're not compromising your morals or ethics. For example,
morals or ethics. You're more concerned about that than you are about like artistic,
right? So, for example,
quality or whatever.
Me, as I
live and breathe,
as I'm an actor and comedian and musician, hyphenate, multi-hyphenate.
Bragger.
Bragger.
Hyphen bragger, yes.
I would be down to do any kind of commercial as long as it's not a commercial promoting alcohol or cigarettes or like vaping or something like that. I'd be down to do McDonald's, even though like I have problems with McDonald's. I'd be down because those kinds of things make a lot of money. Obviously, it's different for me because I'm not like a hugely successful, entertainer who doesn't need to worry about money, right? But hopefully. But I think I have nothing wrong with Samuel L. Jackson doing these Capital One commercials.
I don't know. For actors, it's a little different. Like for actors, I'm almost like, back in the day, I honestly don't care.
So in the 90s is what I was saying. People would have had problems. Like, we would have seen, if we saw, George Clooney promoting some brand in a commercial, people would have a problem. They would be like, wow, he's sold out.
I don't know about that. Jerry Seinfeld was in a slew of American Express with Superman. And I don't think
for some reason it bothers me less with actors because it's such like I don't know. I don't want to. I don't know because
this is what I was saying about the history of the word. It really kind of in its modern usage it's revolving a little bit more around the music industry.
Right. So okay, here's why I don't mind when actors quote sell out is because their craft is one of interpretation and not of from the ground up expression. I want to be like, I don't want to like say acting isn't an art or anything like that. I'm trying to say like if your art is interpreting something and whatever, amplifying it, it's slightly different than authoring a really shitty song where an entire verse is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
are you knocking
Friday,
Neil Sedaka here?
Saturday. That's
I know. Now that's a deep cut. I mean that song anyway,
but what it's different. Neil Sedaka. Different. Like you're authoring something. No, you're authoring something like you're creating something in the universe that is inane and stupid versus like doing your thing and like, bringing, in the case of Jerry Seinfeld, like bringing your Jerry Seinfeld charm to selling credit cards to America or whatever.
Sure. But one could make an argument for that is
you already have enough money and you don't need to be making more money.
Also, it is, I mean, one could say, no, that is actually selling. I mean, he doesn't need to be doing that. And he's,
but that's part of
he's using what makes him in an area that is, that doesn't have to do with what he puts out as a comedian.
He would normally be knocked for this kind of stuff in his comedy, maybe.
Sure, but he's clearly having fun doing it.
Who's on what side now? Who's on what side now?
Yeah, right. You guys switch sides. I mean, I don't.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm okay with it.
I think it's.
Right.
I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate with you. I think it's fine. Hey, if he's down,
I think
with
it's
it,
terrible.
and the marketing campaigns, were to get a celebrity endorsement of these things. That's the way they're going to promote to audiences to make sure that they can get people to buy their product.
Well-
It's not like, oh, sometimes let's come up with a good tagline like "Got Milk." That was a big thing to get people to drink milk, right? That was huge. I remember when that came out.
Sure, but that's like you're already a shill if you're an advertising copywriter. It's like, okay, yeah, like let's find a way to like shove products down America's throats.
I guess. I don't know. That seems
I
like
don't
a
think you
fun
can
idea
sell
to me.
out as an advertiser. No, sure, it sounds like a great job. It is a fun job. You get paid really very well, and like it's cool to see your copy out in the world.
Sure.
But I don't think like that job, you've already sold out by taking that route creatively, and that's okay. I'm not saying that's no, I am saying that's a bad thing because that's my stance. So but
Look, this is loose. You don't have to exactly.
Sure, but I don't know. It's okay. Sure, sell out, do whatever you want. But I'm not. I don't know. I kind of lose respect for you as an artist because that's the position I'm taking.
Well, okay,
and it's like
But where do you draw the line, Nickon? I mean, maybe some of these artists, maybe they actually are enjoying and they actually truly like what they're creating when they're quote unquote selling out. And in that case, maybe they're just losing their touch, with.
Absolutely. And I guess my point is they're allowed to do that. I'm not going to tell somebody, hey, you should not strive to be in the top 1%.
Look, do I think Paul McCartney, that collaboration he did with Kanye West was good?
I don't even know what you're talking. What was that on the last album?
I can't remember when it was. It was a few years ago. But
album. Okay.
And I'm, or like what was it? I think Chris Cornell did something with.
Hey, don't you
Timbaland.
speak ill of Chris Cornell.
Are you
Paul
a big
McCartney can
Soundgarden
talk all
fan or Audio Slave fan?
both, but and may he
Oh, really?
rest
Are
in
you?
peace.
Are you?
Oh yeah, I love Audio Slave.
Okay, yeah. Well, I guess that would make sense because you're a Mars Volta fan. I mean, I don't know. They're not the same.
They're
music,
not the same, but they're loud. They're both very loud. That's for sure.
No, Chris Cornell's a great singer, but I would say that he did a collaboration with Timbaland, I think it was, and that.
Did you say that again? Timbaland?
Yeah, Timbaland.
I think it's Timbaland, but I like Timbo.
What? How did I?
You said Timbo. You said Timbo.
No, I didn't. I said Timbaland.
Oh, I thought you said Timbaland. Sorry, that's my fault.
I just wanted to make sure I was over accentuating the to make sure I wasn't
doing the hard R,
saying Timberland.
Right.
Well, no, it's because I think what's funny is I think Justin Timberlake showed up on that album as well, which was, which in my mind you could interpret as, wow, Chris Cornell's selling out. He's doing music with Justin Timberlake and Timbaland, but. Yeah. At the same time, you're like, well, this is just what he's currently into. That's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Sure, again, it's okay, but I don't have to like pretend to like it, and I don't have to support it.
No,
and
you don't.
That's my stance. Is like, do whatever, but I don't support it.
Hey, look,
you
could also say when an artist gets, it's the old thing when an artist gets too big or popular. People might consider them selling out. Like when the Beatles first left the Liverpool scene and became big in all of the UK.
Liverpool.
The Liverpudlians.
We're bringing it back. We missed a few episodes.
A few episodes where he didn't say Liverpudlians. The Liverpudlians felt betrayed, like, oh, they're not ours anymore, And I certainly felt like that when Joanna Newsom became very popular in the mid to late 2000s.
And actually, speaking of Big Lebowski, it's weird. It applies to a lot of things. Like, I remember the Big Lebowski being like this small movie that nobody really cared about, but like my friends and I like had all these inside jokes about it. And then like I went to college, and like every other asshole you met was like making Big Lebowski, like
the royal we,
the dude about yeah, a bunch of and it just made it less.
Cool.
I don't know.
It made it less yours.
Mine. Yeah,
no,
exactly.
I understand that feeling. Okay, so
Oh, but here's the thing.
I do want to make. I want to quote something in this article. Nicky, go ahead and say what you say.
And to be clear, I had nothing against The Big Lebowski for its success, but it just made the whole thing a little less, I don't know,
cool.
appealing.
You felt
appealing.
And I felt the same way with like even St. Vincent, or as I said, Joanna Newsom, when they became too popular, it kind of you felt less cool being into those artists. But I will say, with the Beatles, no matter how popular they've gotten, I've always felt like it's a cool thing to be into the Beatles. You know,
that's different because you were born in 1988, so they were already the most famous band in the world before you were even,
but
you know.
There's something about even somebody with Beatles music playing, if they're booming Beatles music from their car while they're driving, I will be like, right on, man. That's great. You know, I mean, I guess maybe if you're getting into the real nitty gritty, I think it'd be even cooler if people are blasting early Beatles stuff, because people are there's a lot of Beatles fans that are always like, oh, I love the late Beatles more. And I'm like, don't be knocking the early Beatles stuff, you know? And so,
but again, let's stay on topic here, because I'm not saying don't be successful. I'm saying don't start making shittier music.
Well, maybe
because you know it'll appeal to a wider.
Okay, so here's the thing:
a wider audience.
Here's the thing, Nickon.
Black Eyed Peas.
Joel, he stopped writing new material in the early after that last album with was it the Rivers what was it called? It goes in the middle of the night.
Oh yeah.
I think after that album, he stopped writing new music.
Yeah, I think you mentioned this on a previous podcast, which is like, you know, that's
he was like, I don't want to start writing bad material and not realize that it's bad.
He did make an album of I believe classical music, classical influenced, or maybe Baroque influenced music, actually, that sounds like akin to Bach, actually.
But he still nonetheless sells out Madison Square Garden all the time and
sells out. By the way,
right, but that doesn't make him a sellout.
No, I know, and I was going to say
he's making the most of his brand.
I just want to say a little bit more history here. Is prior to the late 1800s, sellout was in reference to sort of transactional things or selling out your share in a stock or something like that. Mm-hmm. Shares in something.
Of course,
like
the
that.
stock exchange didn't exist back then, but.
No, there were stocks back then.
There were stocks, just not the New York Stock Exchange.
Live stocks.
We know it. There were stocks.
I just want to bring up this quote by Paul Westberg of The Replacements.
Oh, wow.
And he said he found himself defending himself against the charge of selling out, saying, people get panicky when you're not their little pocket group anymore, their favorite little group that only they knew about.
Right.
People panic whenever things change, added guitarist Slim Dunlap. If you try and stay pigeonholed and please the old fans, that's the kiss of death. You can't please everybody, but we didn't sell out. I know that. What is a sellout anyway?
Yeah, and my answer to you, what's his name? Anyway, whatever. My answer is Paul Westberg.
Well, guitarist Slim Dunlap was the guitarist. Yeah.
Well, my answer is, again, I'm not talking about that. I'm not saying don't be successful. We are we did mention the whole, like, it doesn't feel intimate, doesn't feel like it's mine anymore. But I will only like, if you're an artist that I truly love, I will only celebrate your success. It's when you start making art that I feel is less good than the stuff you used to make.
But maybe not just
that.
I
no longer support you.
But maybe not just that, but maybe you're feeling like they're making art that is so unlike you that compromises your integrity somehow.
Like AFI is another great example of that. Like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with AFI, but
the band AFI.
Yeah, the band AFI.
I know about. I don't really know
this
stuff.
Well, they had, and some people argue that they sold out after. Well, this is just too esoteric, I think. But anyway, so I mean, you can name thousands of examples of bands and musicians and all that kind of stuff that started out with a really interesting, unique sound that was maybe a little niche, but they had a very strong audience that was like die hard. And then they basically took that momentum and decided, I want to appeal to a wider audience.
Sure.
And the music that they made was just, well, you can't say objectively, but it's just worse. It's less good. It appeals to a wider audience, but it doesn't appeal to me. And
that's the day.
There's nothing wrong with that, but I can't listen to it. And the difference between that and the Beatles is that their way of expressing just happened to be very popular with a wide audience.
Well, and I also think here's another thing is they
were bigger than Jesus.
Yeah, that's true. They were that big at the time that whatever they put out. The thing is their quality.
But they backed it up with the quality.
Yeah, they backed up them changing course with their musical styles.
Okay.
I do want to mention this other thing by.
I've got a retort though.
PM Dawn's Prince.
And I have a new. Yeah.
He said this is in reference to playing that way. Being in that mode of playing that type of music all the time. He said he's arguing. Well, you need to branch out though. And yes, you're saying okay if you're doing it though, and for just money reasons, the quality probably is going to suffer. But if you keep playing, this is what he said. A sellout is someone who does shit that they can't fucking stand doing just to make money. Excuse my language. I don't normally use that language, as we established on this previous episode, one of the previous episodes. But this is what he said. A sellout is someone who does shit that they can't fucking stand doing just to make money. I'd be a sellout if all I did was hardcore hip hop. So if you kept doing for all your musical career the thing that this pigeonhole group of people were doing just to keep the money flowing, just to get those fans paying you money, that is selling out too, actually.
Right. Like Eminem is a good example because like I love his early work and I'm not particularly like, I don't know. I don't think he's lost his talent, but I don't like the stuff that he's putting out recently. But I understand that he's pushing himself to try something new, and it's just not working for me as a listener. But like I get that he as an artist needs to do this thing because he could just put out another 10 records talking about go for it.
Well, I was going to say, okay, so we can bring up more current artists. So I'll bring up Radiohead, for example, because in the same way the Beatles changed, the Radiohead's sound changed pretty drastically from the early 90s to the late 90s and so on. Yeah. So I'm sure that when OK Computer came out, and more specifically when Kid A came out, Kid A was such a drastic departure from their rock roots. I would argue that
not root rock,
but their rock roots.
Rock. That's a different thing.
The song "Creep," for example, it almost sounds like a grunge song. But the
only thing that makes it different is his vocal style. Actually,
but
use that drastic dynamic change.
Kid A is almost entirely electronic, and maybe there were some Radiohead purists at the time that felt like they were selling out because they were changing their sound completely. But I don't think most people would argue that. I think they were just
they were
saying,
finding
they're
their
pushing
voice.
the boundaries of what rock music can be and what alternative music can be and what Radiohead can be. And so I think it's okay for a musical artist to change their sound so drastically that it doesn't even sound like what they originally were.
All I'm saying is do it with artistic integrity.
But who are you to say that they're not trying to do it? ...
If you want me to continue to be a fan, right? Like I'm not here to say anything. Like okay, do whatever. Like whatever.
Obviously,
make a ton of money and put a bunch of garbage out in the world for all I care. But I don't have to think that you're good.
Right. I obviously there's some blatant examples of artists who they put out quote unquote crap just to earn a buck, or they'll put their name on something.
And you see this with actors a lot too. There was what's her name? Did Cats? Dame Judi Dench, right? And that's blatantly like.
I think she was in Cats originally on the West End.
Was she really?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Well, I do want to say there is something.
Take that back then.
Ian McKellen actually almost kind of broke down on the set of Lord of the Rings, I believe, because he was
Really?
playing to just nothing, you know,
Oh, right.
because of all
Yeah.
the computer
CGI
graphics in
nonsense.
it.
Yeah.
And he needed, Peter Jackson had to talk him kind of like, he almost just quit, I think, and Peter Jackson had to kind of talk with him and
that makes
calm
sense.
him
I mean,
down,
this is a
saying,
Shakespearean actor right
Yeah,
here. Like,
Well,
and
that's
that-
the thing is, and I bet that most people know Ian McKellen now because of playing Gandalf, you know, and
or Magneto,
yeah.
both monumentally commercial.
so is it okay? Oh, that's a great example, Max. Is it selling out for an actor to play a Marvel superhero?
100%. 100%. And I was going to say, but there's nothing wrong with that. But that's
you
not
don't
my
just
stance.
think,
but it's
like Kumail Nanjiani. You don't think, hey, he has the opportunity to
it's
not only
different for a
increase his
comedian.
fan base, but
it's different for a comedian because it's like I have no doubt that he still sees himself primarily as a comedian and like whatever he can do to sell tickets, right? Not whatever you can do, but like that's a side thing that he's doing for money. It's like if I was a painter, right, and I had to take a job to support myself because I'm not selling paintings, is there anything wrong with that?
Well, that's the
okay,
thing
but
that,
would you take as an artist, a painter? What if you took a job as
Wait, what position?
like
am I
a
taking?
graphic designer for Facebook or something like that to make ends meet?
Sure.
Would that be selling out?
No.
Well, and according to
You're not
your
living the
according to
life
your,
of a starving artist.
yeah, but according to your
I'm not saying you have
Nicky,
to starve. I'm just saying make art. Like, do the thing that like puts food on the table, and then also like don't stop. The thing that happens usually with these Facebook art, like whatever graphic designers, is that they're so exhausted that their whole life becomes doing the Facebook thing, and they don't spend any of their free time doing the art that they were supposedly put on this earth to do.
Well,
right?
that is also, this article, just to quote it again, is talking about the idealist indie rockers of the 1980s and 90s hit middle age and confronted long-delayed financial realities that go along with adulthood, supporting children, paying for housing, saving for future security. So, and that's a thing that, so when Napster came out, post Napster, the music world changed immensely. I mean, right prior to that, the music industry was at its biggest. Actually, a lot of bands were getting signed.
And
they could make a ton of money from album sales. And then right after Napster came out, it just hit a huge dive, and then it completely changed the music industry.
Well, there was a whole thing with Metallica.
Real Big Fish saw it coming. With the song "Sellout." That came right before Napster, and that was like basically a critique on how it's really the record industry that forces these artists, or maybe not forces them, but like really pushes them towards selling out.
Yes, but what I'm saying is after that happened, album sales after Napster came out, streaming services started coming out, and album sales dwindled. People don't buy albums. They don't buy records anymore.
Right, but they go to shows.
They go to shows. They go to shows,
and that's where the artists make their money.
You're right.
And they make it. Here's a huge thing they make it from is licensing,
merch,
and commercials.
Oh, yes.
So that was considered one of the big examples of selling out back in the day.
Right.
Was using your music in a commercial or licensing it to something.
I got nothing against that.
Now musicians are like,
I
would love that. That gets my music out there to people.
I remember when
and get money, and you get paid for it.
Because you get paid for it. And again, that's fine as long as you're not writing that song with the intention of like, oh, I hope like Apple uses this in their next iPod commercial.
Well, I remember when
iPod
of Montreal.
That's a thing of the past.
I remember when of Montreal they had a song in like an Apple commercial, and it was like, oh, that's. For a lot of people, that's how they discovered of Montreal or Vampire Weekend, even though I'm not as into this song as other Vampire Weekend songs, but the song Holiday was in some commercial, like Verizon commercial or something like T-Mobile.
That's not how a lot of people discovered them.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that song became so annoying because it kept playing over and over again in these commercials that I could imagine that people were like, oh, they're really selling out. But I'm okay with it. You know, I'm
But
down
I
with it.
want to go back to Kumail, actually I want to go back to so Kumail Nanjiani. I'm not on first name basis with him, but I again like doing like I don't know, for an actor, for someone who calls themselves an actor as their primary like identity, it is selling out to do a Marvel movie. But for someone whose primary medium is stand-up comedy, it's, I don't know, you're just paying the bills. You're paying them really well.
I don't agree. Look, okay, so Jeremy Irons.
Is that his primary medium? Is not just comedy, stand-up
Not
comedy
anymore.
now.
He doesn't do stand-up as much anymore.
Well,
He's
that's
primarily an actor now.
That's what happens. That is selling out. When you
So you
and
think
that's
Steve
where
Martin is a sellout?
Is it though? Is it that? Do you
Is
feel
Steve
though
Martin
that
a
maybe
sellout?
Steve Martin, Eddie Murphy. What I wanted to Ice Cube. Ice Cube is
okay.
There's
Now
something
that's-
hilarious about Ice Cube, who created a name for himself by being like a dangerous rapper, right? Like offending all of white suburban America, right? Dangerous person. Oh my God, we can't like let our kids listen to this, right? And now he's mostly known for like what's the movie? Are we there? Are we there yet?
Are we there
right?
yet? Yeah.
And like he's known for being an actor in family movies.
Same. Ice-T is known for. Okay, what's here? Okay, no, this is really.
So I would just say that Ice Cube is no longer a rapper. So
Sure.
Ice Cube,
Well,
the person,
Ice-T also one of the biggest songs is "F the Police."
right?
I'm not saying. And now he plays a cop on Law and Order SVU. He's
That's
played
very
it
funny.
since almost the beginning of the series.
I thought it was Cop Killer was his.
Yeah, it wasn't Ice-T.
I'm sorry.
It wasn't F the Police.
I'm sorry.
That's NWA.
Yeah, that's NWA. Sorry.
Yeah,
Cop Killer was
right.
Ice-T.
Which I haven't even thought of that. That's hilarious.
And he becomes a cop.
He becomes a cop on Law and Order SVU.
And then like a very earnest cop from what I've heard from John Mulaney's stand-up. But
So-
because I've never seen the show, but
You know,
Is
that might be considered selling. I might even go as far
would-
as to say
again, I would
that's selling out.
I would call that a career pivot. And now I know I'm like kind of.
and also
I would say that Ice-T and Ice Cube are no longer rappers. So whatever Ice-T the human being does after a career as a rapper, where he talks about killing cops, I don't know. Like, okay, cool, good for him. You know, he's making a lot of money being an actor.
Okay.
I mean,
but Nickon, here's okay.
I'm okay with him doing
okay,
it, but it's still like somebody.
I'm
can
trying to
totally,
have my cake and eat it.
Yeah,
too.
you really are.
Look, you're talking about real actors taking on Marvel roles and that selling out. I don't agree. So Jeremy Irons, he's a perfect example.
Ooh.
Who is this well-trained British actor who, did a lot of work that's,
one of the greatest voices.
One of the greatest
acting.
voices. But he did, in the late 90s, he did, I think, something like the Double Dragon movie or maybe it was the Dungeons and Dragons movie or something like that. And people asked him, aren't you afraid that people are going to view you as a sellout? And he said, doing these kinds of movies allows me to work on these smaller movies that I'm not going to make money at.
Right.
And that is why he's not a sellout. Because he continues to do good stuff.
Sure.
Like isolating a gig. And again, this comes back to being the painter, right? Doing if painting is your main thing and like you're just not making money at it, am I going to like begrudge you for taking a gig? There's the guy who painted the Facebook headquarters, Google Facebook headquarters.
David something or other.
Yeah, he did a mural on their wall or whatever.
No, but he did it for
a billionaire.
Well, he did it for a percentage in Facebook. Actually, it was like he did it when Facebook was just
small.
Getting,
So like that guy's not a sellout. He's able to do his art however he wants, whenever he wants, on his own terms. And so Jeremy Irons rightly said, like, yeah, this is probably not going to be a good movie, but they paid me enough that I don't have to worry about taking the jobs that I do want to do, that do push me creatively and help me express the thing that I was put on this earth.
Well, yeah, I mean, and Dana Carvey talks about it a lot, how he sometimes takes these corporate gigs that pay an exorbitant amount and he said usually they're not good shows, but they pay so much that it allows him to do other things.
Well, a lot of people say even for stand-up comedians doing colleges, often those aren't the best shows too. But
Right.
colleges have money, and so they get paid
I mean,
better
but
than
my main argument as
often
a
do.
pro selling out is
I guess
where
when
do you draw the line for somebody? And I think it's just maybe, are you saying it's a case by case basis? You know, you can't just say, oh, this is the line that we're drawing. You can't pass this line. Or is it, oh, this artist in particular, they have crossed their own individual line that now they have become a sellout.
It's when you make that deal with the devil. It's when you compromise creative quality because you know you will reach a wider audience.
Or now, in my mind, it's also a moral or ethical issue. If you've crossed that line, that is truly selling out, right?
It's funny that you say
that is, yeah.
When
not even as an artist, but as in any job, right? I mean,
well, that's interesting.
It's funny that you say
even okay. For example, if you're a business person and you've decided to buy into a company that you know was causing a lot of pollution or one of the biggest sources of global warming, for example, but you know you're going to make a lot of money doing it.
Sure. Or if like you're a lawyer and like your first gig out of college is to like be on the legal team at Fox News, News Corp or something.
Right.
Sure. I mean, that is.
And if you were a liberal, Democrat before.
Sure. Right. Well, yeah.
Well, it was funny that you said sell out to the devil because apparently that is the first usage of.
Is that right?
In America, in the pejorative usage as it, and what this article is saying is a prostitution of ideals or a betrayal of principle, and it seems to be specifically American. And it's the OED's first citation is a private colloquial use in a Civil War era diary in which the Southerner Mary Chestnut lamented another sellout to the devil.
Real quick, I just wanted to point out, I didn't say this in the beginning. I apologize to viewers who are watching this that I'm very completely unshaven right now.
Nobody cares.
And so
thank you for calling it out.
A little messed
so
up,
I didn't
and
have to.
You need to get a haircut, and so on and so forth. Okay, back to the discussion.
I love it. Okay, so Max just read the quote.
You want to
the article? He quoted the article.
Yeah. Oh, right? I also just another quote from the article, which is interesting. That just because I know that this is somebody that had problems with his relationship to commercialism, and it probably ultimately led, in some ways, maybe to his suicide. Unfortunately, was Kurt Cobain. This is an interesting quote from him, which is, I don't blame. He sympathized with critics at first, saying, I don't blame the average 17-year-old punk rock kid for calling me a sellout. I understand that because he once was that kid, he was punk rock, and, a lot of his influences, came from the punk rock scene. And he told Rolling Stone, before adding, and maybe when they grow up a little bit, they'll realize there's more things to life than living out your rock and roll identity so righteously. Interestingly enough.
Which, I think he epitomizes my point, which is that Nirvana was popular in spite of Kurt Cobain's disdain for fame and like commercial success.
Right.
They weren't putting out, Smells Like Teen Spirit, their most recognizable song. It's not like they were like, hey, let's like come up with a radio hit,
Sure, but actually, funny enough is Kurt Cobain.
I actually don't know.
Well, no, here's the thing. Kurt Cobain, I don't know where I heard this quote from. It might have been from their producer of Nevermind, Butch Vig. But he did say, in spite of his, ostensibly saying that he didn't want to be this huge in his relationship with fame and having problems with that, he did apparently want to be one of the biggest bands on earth or something.
Oh, he
like that.
did.
Well,
he did.
Well, is that hearsay? What is that?
I mean,
Is
it could
that?
be. It
Do
could
we
be.
know?
Here's the thing: in order to make a comfortable living as any artist, you're going to have to create something that sells well, right? And so, it's not like your entire goal is, oh, this has got to be some radio pop hit, but you go into
You want to have
thinking-
fans. You want to have people who
wanna
like
have fans, and you want
listening
people
to your
to like your
stuff.
music, and so
Yeah.
you want to have something that people can sing along to. You
Well,
know?
they
Right.
do want something that's a radio hit because
Because that's how they get. That's how they get.
well, no, they meaning a radio hit in his ears. From what I understand, Kurt Cobain, he prioritized melody first. Lyrics came second.
And that's like me as a songwriter too. You know,
And here's well, anyway, shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, a funny example though of them was this selling out. I think this was on the MTV Music Awards. They were told they had to play "Smells Like Teen Spirit" after having played it so many times. At concerts
they wanted to
and things like that.
play. They wanted to play.
I think it was what was it? Maybe "Come As You Are" or something like that. And they finally were convinced by MTV to play this. And it might have been at the Grammys or something like that. But they get on stage and they start playing.
Rape Me.
Oh, was it "Rape Me"?
No,
I think it was "Come As
No.
You Are."
They
I
started
think I
playing
vaguely
Rape Me.
remember
Trust
this.
me.
They started playing. It might have been "Rape Me" or whatever.
But then
song
they-
then they quickly transitioned into
Smells Like Teen
Teen Spirit.
That's
It's
rad.
almost like they were almost gonna
They were
"Hey,
like,
got you." We almost
got
were gonna
you.
do it, but they still played it though. And was that
That's
them selling
rad.
out? But what
No, I think it's like, look, it's MTV. They're putting you on TV. Like they don't like. I'm hiring you to do a job, which is to show up and play some music for me, right? I'm hiring you to do this.
Well, it's like the Doors on Ed Sullivan, right? Where they were telling him, you got to change the lyric from "Girl, we couldn't get much higher" to something else. I can't remember. And Jim Morrison, they said they would agree to
Pulled
do
out
that,
his
but then
penis.
on air, he overemphasizes, "Girl, we couldn't get much higher." Like he says it almost like F you to them. And I
Yeah.
think they were never able to.
Wait, there's a funny
on there again.
in the Simpsons episode. There's a funny thing. I think the Red Hot Chili Peppers or something like that. Some band made a
it's the
cameo.
Red Hot Chili Peppers, yeah.
And in order to be TV friendly, Krusty the Clown. Oh, was it the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
No, it was, yeah.
Yeah, and he said, instead of this lyric, why not this lyric? And it was watering down their lyrics.
Well, no,
There-
the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
the funny thing was
the Red Hot
I know.
Chili-
Let me finish.
No, I know.
Let him
No,
finish.
in that episode, you're not saying it right.
No.
All right.
Well, let me just finish and then correct me. But then they said,
You're gonna mess
"Oh,
up. No,
that's
you already
about-
messed up.
oh,
You
okay,
already messed
fine.
up.
Go ahead. What is it?
He says, they're like, Krusty says, guys, can you change this lyric? It might not be TV friendly. And the Red Hot Chili Peppers are like, no, man, we don't sell out. We're not going to change our lyrics for you guys. And then Krusty Crown's like, well, what if you tried these lyrics instead? And he tells them the lyrics, and they're like, oh, actually, that's
better
pretty good.
lyrics.
That's a better
Okay,
lyrics.
let's just do that,
We'll go with that. Yeah, sure.
Like it was almost like their ethos of we're never selling out prevents them from they become very narrow minded maybe and then it's parroting the whole sellout thing but also just it's a funny thing that you can also venture to say is your steadfast adherence to not being a sellout preventing you from exploring other things.
Oh, thanks for explaining the joke, Max.
Well, no,
I'm just I'm
that
joking.
wasn't
I'm
the
joking.
joke. The
I
joke
hate
was-
when people do that. They say, "Oh, thanks for explaining the joke to me." I'm like, "Shut up."
Is there any points we haven't made?
Well, I do. Can I finish this
Well,
final quote from the article, which is an interesting
Sure.
thing?
All right, and we'll end on
because
that.
I
But
should
I'm
say,
also, I don't know
okay.
that my scratch has been itched. My itch has been scratched with the whole Kurt Cobain thing because I do think that's an interesting. I guess it's hard to tell.
well, okay, here's another thing that
same with Metallica,
just
actually.
Boff
Oh,
Wally.
Metallica? I don't know. Metallica. Okay. Well,
Bob
what about
Wally
why
of the
Metallica?
band-
What about Metallica?
Well, with the whole Napster thing, right?
Oh, sure.
With Lars Ulrich, like it was
But that's not a creative.
That's not a creative thing.
Selling out creatively. That's Lars just being a little. I mean, rightfully so. But
rightfully so.
He's kind of like a little baby about it.
I guess, but that's the point. Now he's rightfully so. Well, it's interesting. Why do people consider him a baby about it? It's like, this is my music, you're stealing.
Yeah, I think it's because it shows.
I guess because he had a lot of money already, and it's like
money grubbing kind of like essence.
That's what it seems.
Okay, so I guess that is kind of selling out in a way.
But not really, because he's still an amazing drummer, and they still,
but then you.
What I mean is becoming a shitty drummer.
But one could argue, though, selling out is maybe. It's betraying. To sell actually means it in Old English from the 10th century. To sell meant to betray, actually, or at least to. Well, I guess no, it didn't necessarily mean that, but you could find it also meant that.
So, are you saying
to sell, like to sell your soul, or to sell something? Actually, let me just look at
Judas Iscariot was a sellout then?
Yes. In fact, this article
was that how you're going to finish?
Uses that example as Judas being a sellout.
Because he was paid by the Romans to sell him out, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
It's exactly, Nicky. Exactly.
There you go.
So is that where sellout? Is that the original?
He's the original sellout.
No, but it wasn't. But it wasn't. He wasn't referred to as a sellout, but he was referred to selling. Something like that, or it was
selling his soul.
To betray. No. It was betraying to selling.
But if you're selling your soul to the devil, then aren't like metal bands like Metallica for that? Because they're always all about the devil, right?
Well, not Metallica. Metallica.
I know, no, not Metallica, but something a little bit more hardcore than that, right?
That is funny. I like that.
Sympathy for the devil. I don't know.
I mean,
there's something there. There's something there.
It's funny that Trent Reznor.
I'm just joking, of course, guys.
I just like all these quotes in this article as I'm bringing them up. But he is, because it's so funny. He says, "When I hear Grizzly Bear in a Volkswagen commercial, it kind of bums me out," said Trent Reznor, a representative of arguably the last generation that worried about such things. But he was Nine Inch Nails was huge in the 90s, and the 90s was explosive for being able to make money off of album sales. And you didn't need to license your music to make money, So
it was a different time.
He doesn't really have a right to say that. I feel,
Well, when did he say that? If he said that in the 90s, then it was pretty valid. At the time.
No. Well, this was in reference to Grizzly Bear, which they became big in the late 2000s,
mid to late 2000s.
Well,
that's like what you were saying, Nickon.
Well, I would say late 2000s.
Sometimes, back in the 90s or something like that, these artists would strike deals that would require them to put out a certain amount of records within a certain span of time, and that was even like that for actors back in like the golden age of movies. They were on these picture deals, or like Harrison Ford, for example. I think he was on a deal in the 80s where he had to make a certain amount of pictures, but he would agree to do. Oh, that's what it was. He had to do the Jack Ryan, Patriot games in those movies.
Right.
But he had to do those in order to do something else that he really wanted to do. That's a whole interesting story, actually, because Harrison Ford actually stole the role from Alec Baldwin, because Alec Baldwin played the role in The Hunt for Red October. Anyway, I'm going off track here.
Well, Harrison Ford sold out as a carpenter to become an actor.
Yeah, right.
Actor.
He wasn't even supposed to play Indiana Jones. You know that?
Who was?
He was.
He basically, Han Solo was the story where he was the set carpenter.
Well,
right?
No, I think he was a carpenter for like Francis Ford Coppola, and
right.
Because he was in American Graffiti for George Lucas, and a small role. I can't remember. Yeah, he was a carpenter. He became Han Solo, but George Lucas didn't want him to be Indiana Jones because he's like, I don't want to reuse the same actors for these big movies. And so initially they just had Harrison Ford come in to read with other actors, and they were trying to find the right Indiana Jones, but eventually
that's one of those
him and Steven
characters.
Spielberg were like, we should just use
That's one of those
Harrison.
characters where like I couldn't imagine anybody else.
Tom Selleck was about to play. He was
Tom
almost gonna play
Selleck is Indiana Jones. Are you kidding me?
I could buy it.
I could buy it. Did you ever watch? I mean, I never
Magnum
really
PI? Did you
watched
ever watch
Magnum
Magnum
PI.
PI?
No, I did not. I didn't.
I mean, I've seen clips.
Which I'm
and
embarrassed to say as someone with a mustache.
Right.
He was an action.
Well, it was
star.
an action comedic too. It was very comedic that show, and
Seems
it
like to be-
totally makes sense that he could be Indiana Jones for sure.
yeah.
Actually,
All right.
I mean,
All right.
but Harrison Ford does have this kind of sarcasm to his, and kind of this acerbic quality.
I
that
just
is
rewatched
right for the role.
I
though,
watched Temple of Doom rewatched it on the airplane flying to Los Angeles recently, and let me tell you what, I think that's the best one. It used to be
Really?
Last Crusade for me, but
Yeah.
Temple of Doom is nonstop action from the get-go. It just never stops.
Yeah.
And it's really funny. Ki Kwan, I think that's how you pronounce it, who plays Short Round. He's really
Right.
good in it. Anyway, we
Gotta
got
give
to
another
wrap
one.
this up, guys.
Okay, just
Yes.
just to kind of wrap things up. I mean, prior to the music industry, developing the music industry in the 20th century, I should just
So
say.
instead of wrapping up, we're going to hear
no,
more
I am going to
quotes.
wrap up.
Okay.
I'm going to wrap it up. But patronage is a big thing. So
Sure. Yes.
relying on pleasing whoever's your patron,
Right.
and pleasing them and also like pleasing.
I mean, the church,
kings
the
and
Catholic Church.
Yeah, and kings and princes with your music and stuff like that. That was
Sure.
you relied on that. That's how you made your money.
Well, yeah, they were all sellouts.
Yeah, apparently, according to how people think of it. But I should say this is a quote from Stravinsky, okay? And this is kind of a good way to end it all, I feel like, because this is how the article ends. In fact. But it's a great quote. It's a great quote. So,
Those.
but he said, Stravinsky, for one, would have approved of all the, quote unquote, selling out. Let me say once and for all, he wrote in 1966, that I have never regarded poverty as attractive, that I do not wish to be buried in the rain, unattended as Mozart was, that the very image of Bartok's poverty-stricken demise, to mention only one of my less fortunate colleagues, was enough to fire my ambition to earn every penny that my art would enable me to extract from the society that had failed in its duty toward Bartok as it had earlier failed with Mozart. And that both artists and labor organizers could surely agree that, I'm getting getting goosebumps from that, actually. That quote.
No,
it's like it's really why not? Your art is there. Just get everything you can. I would say though, Stravinsky always, he was never creating art that he didn't want to do. Though I would say,
I guess.
But I will say
he
did allow his piece to be performed in Fantasia, and he did not, he was on the record as saying he did not like the way it was performed in Fantasia, by the way.
Well, so you're allowed to not like,
but he agreed to let
it comes out. Sure.
No, but he agreed to let, I'm sure he heard I'm not sure actually if he let the music,
Well, anyway,
heard the music the way it was done before it was released in the movie.
But he got paid. And listen, okay, so let me adjust my whole anti-selling out stance, which I guess it just comes down to like, if, in our capitalist society, I'm not going to begrudge anybody for making as much money as they can without harming others and all that kind of stuff, which most people.
Well, one could argue though,
do
is all the music that this music out in the commercial world right now, is it harming us in some artistic way,
to the extent that it's making us dumber
our minds or not giving enough good influence to the younger generation? Maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
go ahead.
But so I'm not going to hold it against you, but I am also not going to stand here and pretend
that the Black Eyed Peas,
the Black Eyed Peas are still good. I guess that's my point. Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's complicated.
Look,
but Ice Cube is not a sellout. He's just a man who made a career pivot.
Okay.
Well, he really made the career pivot with Friday initially.
No.
because
he made the career pivot. He made the career pivot.
Autobiographical-ish, it's like
well, actually, he
that got him into the movie business.
Incorrectamundo.
Right?
What are you talking about? Boys in the Hood got him.
Boys in the Hood got him.
That's
into
true.
yeah,
that
true,
was where
yeah.
the career pivot happened, actually.
But that's I guess that's
Well, that made him an actor.
That made him an actor. Yes,
but he was playing a role that was.
But Friday,
akin to his,
Friday made him a legend.
I mean,
No. I'm just joking. But look, I think you're right, Nickon, to a degree. I think there is a line, an individual line, and it's a case-by-case basis for each artist, that once you cross it, you've sold out. But I do agree that get your money as in any way possible, because you don't know when that is going to end for you, you know?
Right.
You don't know when your ability to make that kind of money is going to end, so make as much as you can while you
and as
can.
creatives ourselves who would love to, make more of a living doing that, I would only dream to have an opportunity to sell out in any way, in any media.
Right, exactly. And you know what? Even
as
if
long as it doesn't compromise my
Right.
morals or ethics.
Sure,
For me.
And
For me
if
too,
it's
for
like
me too.
something that's completely
I just happen to have looser morals and ethics.
if it's a completely like cheesy role or something you take on, make it your own. You can have fun with
Sure,
it. It'll be fun to do
exactly.
it. As my Bob Saget, who was a very dirty comic, did one of the cleanest shows of all time, which is Full House. But I'm sure he loved doing it. He cherished.
Probably
all
had
those
a lot
things.
of fun with
He
it.
had a lot
My
of fun with it,
question, and this is, I don't know if you guys know this, but was Bob Saget as dirty as he became?
Yes, I'm not sure. I'm not totally sure.
Was
about
he,
that.
or was he just like post Full House? Was he like, you know what, I got to shake this Danny Tanner persona, and is that what made him the dirty comic?
Well,
that
he
we know him
was
as?
somewhat dirty. I know he was at least a little bit dirty. I mean, you can see photos
Yeah,
of
but
him
he was
having this.
Full House clean, obviously.
No, right.
Yeah.
No, well, he had this. I've seen a photo of him with this, this fake hand going down his pants or something like that, like as if it were gonna, masturbate or something like that. Something
Prop
like that.
comic. Yeah.
There was a prop in there. Oh, that's another issue, actually, right there. Prop comedy. Why does it get such a bad rap?
That's a
actually?
topic for another.
Maybe that's a topic.
Prop
All
comedy.
right.
I like
Let's
that.
wrap it, right?
But you know what? I enjoyed this conversation.
I do too, as I do all of our conversations.
As
guys.
usual, folks. If
And
you,
I just do want to thank Franz Nicolay for your this article that I
what's it called?
from.
What's it called?
The article is called "The Rise and Decline of the Sellout:
on which
A History
publication?
of the Epithet from its rise among leftists and jazz critics and folkies to its recent fall from favor."
What's the
Wow,
publication?
that's a long title.
This was in Slate.
Slate.
Slate magazine.
As usual, if you like what you heard
It's from 2017, by the way.
if you like what you heard or saw today, make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and please rate and review us. It helps us gain more listeners, and it allows us to continue doing this podcast. Thank you for tuning into another edition of Splitting Hairs with Max, Nicky, and Nickon.
Keep tuning in.
Yes. Please. Please.